We play and call it work.
Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and welcome to this first impressions of Psychic Awakening, the Greater Good, but focusing on the new Genestealer Cult updates. So if you haven't seen them already, we've already put up first impressions and battle reports for both the Astra Militarum and Tau part of this. Those were put out earlier, so you can check them out on YouTube and in the vault for the battle reports. And after you watch this, you got to go check out the game that I actually just played it with Vito. You're seeing, we filmed them in the reverse order because I'd like to talk about the book after I've played a game with it. It's not a full review because I haven't had a chance to play a bunch of games with it, but we'll come back to that later. But I would play it against Vito in his White Scars, and that game was ridiculously close. So I can tell you that right now. We played it. I'm not going to give anything away except the fact that it's not a quick 1 or 2 turn finish. It was very, very back and forth, and it was a lot of fun, and it was very a nail-biting game. So when you're done watching this, go click the link below to check out the Genestealer Cult versus White Scars battle report in the MiniWarGaming Vault. If you're not a Vault member, you can click the link, get a 7-day trial. Our Vault members are what help us to survive, so we really appreciate them. So if you want to support us, consider joining. So anyways, I'm going to jump right into talking about what is new in this book and what I think about what I've read and the very first few impressions. And I'm going to do my best to keep this spoiler-free for the battle report that is in the vault right now. So first off, I was excited for this because I love the Blood of Baal updates for the Tyranids. I played a bunch of games with the Tyranids after that, and it felt like it was so fresh. Like I had new ways to play them, new ways to adapt to them. So like a lot of the other updates in this book, we have access to build your own cult creed. So in the regular Genestealer Cult Codex, much like most of the codexes that are out there, you can choose a chapter or a cult creed or something like that. And now, much like a lot of them, you can build your own by choosing 2 abilities from a list. First thing I noticed was this list was a lot smaller than the Tyranid list and a lot of the other lists that I've been seeing. And then I read through it, and I have to say I'm a little disappointed. There's nothing that really jumped out at me as being really awesome. And the ones that I tried today, which was, I tried armor-piercing ammunition, which is auto pistols, auto guns, and heavy stubbers. Basically, they get AP -1 when they're in half range. And I thought, well, that would be really good. And I'm really not giving away who's going to win the battle report when I say this, but it just didn't really give the extra firepower to the neophytes and all the auto pistols that I thought it would. And so I just felt like my points weren't really well spent, even though they had that extra -1. And then there's a couple in here, like Seasoned Enforcers, where infantry models ignore the penalty of firing heavy weapons if they move. The thing about that one is, first off, there is a cult creed that combines that with something else in the regular Genestealer Cult Codex. But there isn't a lot of heavy weapons that I guess if you peeled a pure neophyte list, because Brood Brothers, so Astra Militarum that you bring in, don't benefit from this, so it doesn't combine with that. But if you're building a pure neophyte list, I can see this one being okay. But at the same time, it just feels like those points can be better spent on other things. I always found that the neophytes were a little lackluster, and so I'd rather pour more things into my acolytes or aberrants and all these other places. So going through the other ones, I'm not going to read them all, but we have ones, for example, that give you +1 advance and charge during your first battle round. Or if you were charged, or heroically intervened, you get to reroll hit rolls of 1. That one's not bad. Or you have the number of models that flee when taking a morale test. I'm never a big fan of those ones because it's too situational. Going back to the rerolling ones, you could see that one as saving you the points of buying your cult icons. So every unit of neophytes and acolytes, you can spend 10 points to buy them an icon, and the icon gives them reroll 1s to hits in close combat. So I could see that being nice. It could free up enough to bring another squad. So that seems pretty good that way. You have like a psychic one where if a psyker is within 6 inches of another cult unit, so anything, they can reroll 1s for their psychic tests. That's pretty good if you really want to focus on psychers. And another, you know what? I do see one combination that I think I am going to want to try, and that's Seasoned Enforcers and Workers Arisen. Seasoned Enforcers is one of infantry, ignore the heavy when moving and firing. And then you have Workers Arisen that when resolving an attack made from the heavy mining weapons list. So those are the heavy weapons specifically that the neophytes can take, not the weapon platforms. So like the mining laser, seismic cannon, that kind of stuff. Then they get to re-roll the hit rolls. So combining that with the move without penalty, I'm going to try that. That is going to be something I try. Not in today's game because I tried something different. Another one's interesting, Devout Worshippers. If you're within 3 inches of any metamorphs, you can reroll charge rolls. And that would include, of course, the metamorphs. It says you cannot combine this one with the one where you get +1 advance in charge in the first battle round, for seems like obvious reasons. And then finally, Poison Blades, that the Bone Swords and Cultist Knives, if you roll a 6 to hit, you get another attack. So not an extra hit, another attack. So you still have to roll the hit again. But that can't generate any more. So I said I wasn't going to read all of them. It looks like I'm going to read all of them because there's only one left where all your grenade weapons get +1 strength. That's Munitions Expert. That one's interesting. I wonder if there's a way to really make a good combination with that. There's a stratagem in the Genestealer Cult Codex for 1 command point when you go to shoot that 10 models can throw grenades rather than just 1, but only 5 can be demolition charges, so you can't spam too many of those, which is hard to get more than that anyways. But it's still only 1 unit. So do I put one of my Cult Creeds to get +1 strength in a grenade so I can move up and throw 10 strength 4 grenades instead of strength 3? Because using it on the demolition charges, yeah, they go from strength 8 to strength 9, which is, not horrible, but it's not as big a change as 3 to 4. And so I'm not seeing an exciting way to combo that in a list. And the way I see these make your owns is that you build a list around their strengths. And so there's no point in taking that if you're just going to be throwing the occasional frag grenade or the occasional demolition charge. So I'm seeing a couple things. Maybe it can actually find a way to play neophytes interestingly because of the reroll hits with heavy mining and the no penalties to heavy weapons when you move. Maybe the innate fighters of rerolling 1s to hit. It's just the fact that I'm going through these and being like, yeah, this is what disappoints me. When I went through the Tyranids ones, I found plenty of bad ones. But there was a few where I was like, that's awesome. Scything Talons getting -1 AP, all of a sudden, that's great. The monsters, or everything healing 1 wound. There was a bunch in the Tyranid one that I really liked right off the bat. And after playing them, I found that which ones I really liked. And there's still a list of 5 or 6. Here, I'm seeing 2, maybe 3 that jump out to me as usable. But honestly, it's not a lot to convince me to not want to just use the Cult Creeds from the Genestealer Cult Codex. And I'm not saying they just have to be overpowered. They just need to create interesting combos. And I wish that they filled in the blanks of things that the other creeds didn't really do. And so if they're finding that a lot of people are using certain units from a book, well then let's create a couple things that specifically benefit them so that they have an excuse to build a list of just that unit or something focused around that. So it is cool that we have new Cult Creeds. My overall is a B-, I guess is the grade I would give them because it's nice that I have some variety, but for the most part, there's not a lot of things that I find would be convincing for what I'd want to bring. It also includes the errata, which we don't really need to worry about. The next thing it has is new stratagems. Now I should point out before we go much further is what it doesn't have. There are no new artifacts in this book. And that disappointed me because the artifacts that they came out with for the Tyranids was interesting. Also, the Tau have, instead of taking a signature system, you can upgrade a unit with a cool system. The Tyranids have, instead of taking a warlord trait, you can upgrade a unit of infantry or a monster to have the cool new abilities. It really added some of the cool ways to play the army. This does not have any of that for the Genestealer Cult. What we also do have is cult psychic powers, and just like the Tyranid ones from Blood of Baal, there's one for each of the cult creeds from the original book. So they don't combine with the cult creeds here. Another reason to want to use one of the creeds from the original book. So we've only really got 3 things here. New cult creeds, some new stratagems, and psychic powers to go with the cult creeds from over here. Now thankfully, the stratagems add some interesting things. And once again, I'm going to keep comparing it to the Blood of Baal Tyranids because I thought I would give that one an A+ all around. I've been having so much fun with that one. But going through the stratagems here, a few of them, I think 4 or 5 of them, are ones that you use before the battle to upgrade certain units. Like you can upgrade an Abominate to have a 9-inch aura for his aberrants. He has an aura of if they roll 6 to hit, it counts as 2 hits, so that'll become a 9-inch aura. Or you have it that if you can give it to the Clamavus to increase his aura by 3 inches. Or you can give it to a Magus so he can cast an additional psychic power. And if he's near other psychers, he gets bonuses to his psychic tests. Or you can choose a Primus and his Meticulous Planner ability, which is that he can choose a unit when he's deployed, and anybody close to him gets to reroll 1s to wound. you can upgrade him so he can choose 2 of these. Now, I used a few of these in the game today because I just wanted to show them off, and some of them were interesting. And so this is kind of how I said that you can't choose those things to upgrade your units. Well, they have those here in the stratagems. And thankfully, Genestealer Cult can more easily bring like double battalion or a brigade to get those extra command points, even at lower points level. The game I played today is a double battalion, and I burned through 3 or 4 command points right off the bat to upgrade units, bring an extra relic, all that kind of stuff. So we are fortunate that way. And I have to say, Genestealer Cult is a lot of fun to play already. So when I say a B-, it's not to Genestealer Cult overall, it's just to the additions. It's not as exciting as I had found the Tyranids to be. But we do have some other interesting new stratagems. For example, when a rock grinder charges for 1 command point, you can, on a 2+, do D3 mortal wounds to an infantry unit within 1 inch of it. Cool, if there's something that you just need to finish off, like a character, or it's obviously not going to work against a large unit, because it's just, who cares that you did D3 mortal wounds. Or for Adeline Jackals, your little bikers, when they shoot, if they shoot with a pistol or assault weapon within 12 inches of the enemy, they can re-roll the wound roll. That's pretty cool. Or metamorphs. This actually makes me want to bring metamorphs. I've always shied away from metamorphs because of the extra cost and the fact that they're not troops. I've loved acolyte hybrids so much. But with this one, for 1 command point, when they fight in the fight phase, you get +1 attack. Combine that with Might from Beyond Psychic Power to give another attack and strength, or the relic banner of +1 strength bubble, and all of those put together, that could actually be very, very nice. They're still very easy to kill, though. Don't forget that. Toughness 3, 5-up saves is not very hard. So, we have the Ridge Runners. If they fire a heavy stubber, they get +1 hit and wound. Cool. That one's okay. We have another one where if a rock grinder or truck is targeted is chosen as a target of range attacks, you can, for 1 command point, dodge it and ignore AP -1 and -2. I'm not sure how dodge and ignore is armor penetration, but I guess that's just the mechanics they use to represent that. Or one that can be interesting for 1 command point, when a unit, or in the cult unit, is going to fire a clearance incinerator, heavy mining laser, or heavy seismic cannon, which is basically the Goliath rock grinders. For 1 command point, you can get +1 to wound. So clearance incinerator, which is basically a double heavy flamer with a 12-inch range, so 2d6 shot, strength 5 -1. So strength 5, get +1 to wound. So a lot of things you'll be wounding on 2s, at the very least 3s, and then some really hard things you can be wounding on 4s. So not bad. There's one for the Sanctus that he automatically advances 6 inches, and then he can still charge. So that's cool for the close combat Sanctus. So we do have some interesting things here. And they give me some new ideas for a couple things I want to try. I think after just playing a couple more games, though, I'm going to run out of new things to try for them, which is disappointing to me because I love having lots and lots of variety within an army to play. I'm spoiled with Tyranids, is really what it comes down to. Tyranids have so many options. So our new psychic powers, we've got 1 for each of the Genestealer Cults, the cult creeds from the original book. So, and I've read through them, and I'm like, some of them are pretty cool. Once again, making me want to choose ones from the original codex rather than the ones in here. And the nice thing is you can still choose the original creeds, use the stratagems from here, and the psychic powers from here. So it has something to offer in both ways. So for the Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor, we have Undermine, which is you choose an enemy infantry unit within 18 inches, and they have to have their move, advance, and charge rolls. So cool. The Hive Cult has Synaptic Blast. You choose an enemy within 18 inches, and then you roll a die for every one of your models that are within 3 inches of it, and every 6 does a mortal wound. So if you've managed to surround it with a large group, and then you do this, then, well, you could potentially do a bunch of mortal wounds. So I see that one as being interesting. The Bladed Cog have Undying Vigor, and it just basically gives a 5-up ignoring wounds on a unit. This would stack, of course. Oh wait, no, it doesn't stack. It's not Age of Sigmar, so it does not stack with things like your Aberrant or your Icon Wards. But 5-up to ignore, that's basically Catalyst from Tyranids, but this is only on a warp charge value of 6, which is nice. It's only 12-inch range though, but that's not usually an issue. The Rusted Claw has Inescapable Decay. You choose an enemy vehicle, and everything that attacks it, shooting or close combat, gets an extra AP. So basically you're rusting it, hence the Rusted Claw, Inescapable Decay. So that's cool. Choose a vehicle, and then everything you shoot or fight in close combat counts as 1 higher AP. Essentially degrades its save by 1 for that until the end of the turn. That one does not go to the next psychic phase. That's important to point out. The Pauper Princes get Last Gasp. This one's kind of okay. It's choose a unit within 12 inches, and then until the start of your next psychic phase, whenever a model from that unit dies on a 4+, they can either shoot with one of its ranged weapons, as if it were the shooting phase, or make one attack with one of its melee weapons. I wish it was just shoot as if it was the shooting phase, or fight as if it were the fight phase, because that one would be really nice to put on a character like a Patriarch. If you kill me on a 4+, I get to just maul you. And it's still only on a 4+, and it's a psychic power, so it's not even like that would be overpowered. But it would be really good for shooting units, because they get to shoot one of their ranged weapons, which is usually all you have is one ranged weapon that you can fire. But, you know, even on Acolyte hybrids, beginning to make one last Rending Claw attack or one last Heavy Rock Saw attack could be good. Lastly, we have the Twisted Helix Mutagenic Deviation, which is selecting an enemy infantry unit within 12 inches. Then whenever you attack it with a melee weapon, you get +1 to wound. Now that one's pretty cool. And see, like, I go back and I flip open to the Genestealer Cults from back here, and I look at like the Twisted Helix. They get +1 strength and +2 advance, and that's just army-wide. Like, think about that. Those two things. Because if you're building your own cult, if there was one of the things is everybody gets +1 strength, and then +2 advance is another one. So all of a sudden you can be like, well, I want +1 strength, but I also want to get +1 advance and charge in the first battle round instead. So it just gives those more options. Or you look back at like the Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor, and they get +1 advance and charge in the first round, just like one of them in here. And then they get +1 advance and charge when they show up from Cult Ambush as well. So you can see that they've taken things from the Cult Creed, which they've done for a lot of the other books as well, and put them in separately. But then I just found that they didn't add any really good new ones to make you be like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that, instead of coming over here. Because we already have things like reroll hits for melee weapons when you charge, word charge, or perform a heroic intervention. Whereas over here, it's reroll 1s to hit. So reroll hits, all of a sudden 3s rerolling a lot across the board. And then you don't need the support of Primuses to give you that +1. And you don't need to bring icons either. And then you get access to the Pauper Prince's Last Gasp, so that they can still fight when they're killed as well. So these are just so good. And whereas the Tyranid ones, there was like 2 or 3 that I'd use all the time, and I was kind of getting tired of them, so it was nice to have new ones to do. I'm just finding that there's only probably going to be 1 or 2 new ways that I can play that'll feel different from the existing Cult Creeds that are there. Oh, we got a name generator, which is cool. I appreciate that, being a narrative campaign creator. It's always nice to have name generators. But no new relics, no other upgrades for our guys, but some interesting Cult Creeds, some interesting stratagems. So that's really all there is to cover. It's not nearly as big an upgrade as like the Tau got or the Tyranids, and I keep referring to those ones because those are the ones I'm familiar with, of course, so I'm obviously biased, because I'm sure there's other people that are like, well, at least you got an upgrade, and I'm sitting here just waiting for mine, or I didn't like the upgrade I got for my army. I get that. Of course, we pour our heart and souls into these armies. We want to see them treated well, but there's so many of them out there that surely some are going to get more favorable treatment than others. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me for this quick first impressions of the new Genestealer Cult upgrades or updates in the Psychic Awakening, the Greater Good. And don't forget now to click the link below and go and watch the battle report. I'm telling you, it was an awesome game between me and Vito. White Scars versus Genestealer Cult. Trying out some of the new stuff. I definitely showed off some of the new stratagems, some of the new Cult Creeds, and we had a fantastically close game the whole time. It was hard to know who was going to win right up until the end. Thanks so much for watching. Happy wargaming.